Hello guys and welcome back to Blind Men. We left off where we captured Cullen. I'm just gonna call him Cullen, although it's Sergei. Hello. So sorry I've been gone for a while, it's just been a busy week for me. Hey Cullen Rutherford. Anyway, I like the bulge. Wait. Am I expecting something? Hold on. It's weird. Wait. I'm supposed to enable transitions. Read messages. Oh god. Sorry. But just as his face becomes visible, the whole room freezes. The man on the table is not Schultz. It's the Russian. Oh, I love a Russian. You. The henchmen exchange a nervous look between them for about a second before turning to stare at me. I try to clear my throat in an authoritative manner, but it sounds more like I'm trying not to choke. Keep an eye on him. Don't let him move a muscle until I come back. Sorry guys, it's been a while since I actually played this. I've been trying to apply for internships, so real life caught up. It sucks, but it happens. I take a couple of steps back, and as soon as I'm sure that nobody can see me anymore, I run out of the laboratory. To cry in the corner, when he agreed to lend me the lair, my uncle did so with the condition that he'd spend the day working in his office. Close enough to keep an eye on me, but out of sight as not to be fastidious about it. At the time, I wasn't too happy about it, but now I couldn't be more glad that he was so insistent. When I get there, I don't even bother knocking. Knowing that the door will be unlocked, I simply storm inside. Uncle! Oh, Uncle! But instead of my uncle, I find Madame Mantis sitting behind my desk. His desk. As soon as she sees me, she stands up, walking over until she's close enough to put a hand on my shoulder. My first instinct is to try to compose myself and pretend that there's nothing wrong, so I force myself to smile. Madame Mantis, to what do I owe the pleasure? Well... hi. Awesome cleavage, by the way. Nice touch, but... I'm not sure. Is the dress supposed to behave like that? Wow, I'm being critical with the artist. I'm such a bitch. I heard that you wanted to apply it to the league, and I came to make sure that Sphinx wasn't giving you too much trouble. I know he can be difficult. When you said that you'd give me a letter for college, I thought that may be you also. I am, but only because it's always good to have more options. Your uncle and I hardly agree on this. Anyway, he saw what happened at the museum on the news and decided to do some investigating on his own. He asked me to stay here just in case. He should be back in a couple of hours. Hours? This just keeps getting worse. Your uncle is very worried about you. You're lucky he's already bald. Mantis pats me on the shoulder before moving her arm away. She then circles me a couple of times before walking all the way to the door and locking it. Now why are you really here for? I just wanted to let him know that I was back already and that I'm safe. You can't hide things from me, dear. Very few people can. You came running in and you look like you just saw a ghost. If you let me help, we can figure something out before he comes back. I take a deep breath while I consider my options. The last thing I want is more people knowing about what happened and it's necessary, but Mantis would gain nothing out of telling people I messed up. I feel like this is a critical moment. I'll save. Okay. Besides, she gets along reasonably well with my uncle. There's a good chance that she really just means to help me. She's right. If I fix this before my uncle comes back, I can pretend it never happened. He doesn't have to find out at all. Things at the museum didn't... Okay. Why am I such a stickler for critique? Oh my god, I'm such an... But to improve a game, you should have people double check it, like typewriters or some shit. Things at the museum didn't exactly go as planned. To keep it short, I decided to bring back a hostage. But... I wanted to bring back one of the speakers, Professor Schultz. But the place was too dark and with all the confusion we ended up capturing a Soviet agent that was there instead of him. Now he's down at the lab and I don't know what to do. I'm not going to tell you how badly you messed up because I have the feeling that you're perfectly aware. First of all, take another deep breath. You can't appear nervous when talking to a hostage. Does it look like he could have some kind of important information? I guess. I mean, at the very least, he should know why the Soviets wanted the diamond. He said it's because it used to belong to them, but I'm not sure about that. The timing is very strange. They could have had come for it at any other time. Do you think I could ask the KGB for a ransom, or hand him over to the League? No, I doubt he's important enough for the KGB to pay for him, and he won't be much use to the League if that's all he knows. Soviet agents operate on what's basically a need-to-know basis, and KGB's policy regarding captured agents is to always assume they have been compromised. Ah, great, he's useless then. Not exactly. I know a couple of people that still do work inside Soviet territory from time to time. Any information about why an agent was at the museum would be of interest to them. They have some leverage in the League, and they are the type that don't like owing favors to others. If you make sure that no one finds out it was an accident, you can still make this look good enough for your application. Get him to talk, make all of this seem intentional. Yes, I can do that. Thank you, Mantis. I'm about to turn around to leave when she moves in front of me and takes my hand into hers. Don't forget, Keegan, you're in charge here. She squeezes a little harder, enough to make my fingers hurt. Besides, if it comes down to it, you can always kill him and dispose of the body. I'm sure that won't be necessary, Mantis. Of course not. She laughs, letting me go before heading to unlock the door. I'm not sure if I'd go as far as to say I feel confident, but now I realize that I deal with far more intimidating people on a daily basis, and I do it pretty well. If I don't let them throw me around, some Soviet agent isn't going to be the one to ruin my plans. The first thing that I notice when I enter the lab is that all the henchmen are gone except for the one that helped me bring the Russian here in the first place. In their place, there are a couple of armed guards on each side of the table. The change did the opposite of easing the tension in the room, and both guards look slightly uncomfortable as they acknowledge me with a nod. I wave my hand and they both step aside and make room for me. Honestly, I'd prefer Spetsnaz. See, I'm sorry. Why do I know this? Oh yeah, because I watch a lot of fiction. Oh god. I clear my throat to get the attention of the agent. He raises his head, and the look he gives me is enough to send a shiver down my spine. I get that you're new to this, but come on, show a little backbone. It's like he's considering all the ways he could kill me. Okay, that considered, I guess I wouldn't be surprised. This explains why the henchmen left and brought in the guards. I remember what Mantis said to me as I straightened my back and I returned to stare. It soon becomes a staring contest, neither of us wanting to be the first one to look away. Finally, it's me that gets unnerved, and I cough to dissimulate. I suppose it isn't hard for you to get out of your country after all, being an agent and everything. But since you're here already, let's see what we can find for you, shall we? Here's the deal. I need information, and you have it. If you answer my questions, I promise I'll let you go. I won't talk. Don't be stubborn. I'll have it one way or another. But you do get a say about how difficult this will be for you. This time he doesn't even bother answering. Hold up. Fuck. Save. Bitch, fuck. Save it. Overwrite. Yep. Holy shit, it's almost been a month since I played. Let's try the pacifist route. I try to appeal to him. With truth serum, the risk of accidentally poisoning him is too high for my liking. Likewise, if I decide to torture the information out of him, there's a chance that he'll resist too much and he'll end up dying from his wounds. Besides, I'm not really a fan of blood. Even just thinking about it makes my stomach turn. Oh my god, do my decisions actually change his personality? That'll be great. It will be much easier for everyone involved if he just decides to cooperate. Suit yourself, but I know what the KGB does to the people that fail them. And even if you don't talk, just by letting yourself be captured, you've already failed. You know nothing. Don't I? Think about it. This is the perfect chance to start over, a new beginning away from everything. No one will know what happened to you, except for me, and frankly, I couldn't care less. Yes! Be my slave! Yes! Sorry. You just need to answer some questions and you'll be free. There's no need to die for your country. He hesitates for a moment before shaking his head. There always is. Don't you have any family? Anyone you care about? You could help them this way too. Send them things. Get them out of the Soviet Union. I have a sister. She was sent away for a chess tournament and she never returned. I always wondered. I'm not surprised by the sudden confession, since that was exactly what I had hoped for. But by how he sounds when he say it. What? That was an incomplete thought. I'm trying to analyze that. He even looks vulnerable for a second. But it doesn't matter. She was good as dead the moment she left. I realized right then that perhaps I didn't think this was thoroughly as I should have, because I suddenly feel less like pressing him for information. He was set on not saying a word when I was only talking about his job, but as soon as his family came up, his attitude changed completely. If there's something I can sympathize with, it's losing family. I'll find out what happened to her for you. Then you can decide whether you'd like to speak after all. And I'm just supposed to believe you? Oh no, of course not. But if you live, you can go see for yourself whether it's the truth. You'll get water and something to eat. I'll give them orders not to mistreat you, but they'll make sure you don't escape, so don't try anything stupid. He tries to dissimulate, but I can tell from the look on his face that the henchman is really wishing for Sergei to give him an excuse to hurt him. On my way out, I glare at him to make sure that he doesn't get any funny ideas. I curse my moment of weakness all the way to the office. I was supposed to do one thing, to get him to talk, and I somehow ended up promising something I'm not even sure I can do. For one thing, I'm not even sure that we have such information at hand, and even if we do, I'm not sure I can access it. I almost forgot about Madame Mantis. She's probably still inside. If I begin to go through the files with her there, she's going to want to know what I want the information for. Her advice immediately comes to mind, and it sends a shiver down my spine. While I try not to think about the way to get her out of the office and somewhere else, I see one of the henchmen passing by. It's just some random guy from maintenance, which makes him perfect for what I have in mind. Hey you! He looks around and points at himself, as if making sure that I'm talking to him and not someone else. I gesture to him to come closer. Yes, you. Are you busy? He shakes his head. Do me a favor, head to the lower level and call Madame Mantis. I don't care what you call her for, just make sure she's busy for as long as possible. Luckily for me, most of the base's personnel doesn't deal directly with her very often, so as far as they're concerned, we're about as equally intimidating. And I have the advantage of being related to the boss. The henchman turns around, hurriedly heading towards the nearest elevator. About a minute passes until I see Mantis come out of the office, looking annoyed as she walks down the hall. As soon as I'm certain that she is gone, I go inside and lock the door behind me. I spend the better part of an hour staring at the monitors and go through the files. Finding one that isn't classified is hard enough already. Finding one that doesn't require me to mess with my uncle's computer more than necessary is even more so. What's the deal with this man? I've seen world leaders whose files are less protected than his. Anything remotely related to him is classified 10 times over. What kind of encryption code is that? Finally, I find one that looks promising enough. It's a list of notable people that defected, compiled for the purpose of letting supervillains know of people that might be willing to work for them. Because it has hundreds of names, and most of them aren't actually important. It must have slipped through the cracks. I keep scrolling until I find someone that matches Sergei's description, who I'm pretty sure is his sister. There aren't many female chess players that left the scene after an important match after all. She moved to America under a new identity, that makes sense. From the looks of it, she retired from chess and has been living a quiet life since then. In the end, I don't find much information beyond that, but at least it's better than nothing. While I go over the files once more to make sure that they're just as I found them, I pick up the phone and call the lab. When the henchman answers, I can hear the guards arguing with each other in the background. That's not good. I've got what I need. I'll be down in a minute. Go tell the guards to ready the vehicle and to deliver Sergei to the garage when it's done. I want him tied up and blindfolded. We'll drop him at the nearest city. The henchman takes too long to answer, and since I just know that's a sign he's just about to protest in some way, I continue talking. The sooner he's out of here, the sooner this is over with. Maybe it will even look like we know that we're doing what we're doing. Maybe it will even look like we know what we're doing if there isn't an angry Russian in the middle of the lab by tomorrow morning. He doesn't sound too convinced as he hangs up, but I honestly couldn't care less about his opinion at this point. When I get back to the lab, I expect to see the henchman escorting Sergei outside, maybe with the help of a couple of guards. Those were my instructions after all. Instead, I find just the two of them standing in the middle of the room. Sergei has a red cloth covering his mouth and his hands are handcuffed behind his back. The henchman is struggling to push him towards one of the back doors, but they aren't heading towards an exit. That door in particular leads to the aquarium where my uncle keeps his sharks and other dangerous aquatic life forms when they aren't in use. What the fuck? What are you doing? I told you to get them out of here! The henchman turns around and for a moment he has a look of annoyance on his face, but it quickly changes into something more apologetic as he realizes who he's talking to. Boss, I don't care what you thought. Do I have to do everything myself? Move aside, I'm escorting him on my own. He doesn't move, so I end up pushing him out of the way and grabbing the back of Sergei's coat. Given how much taller he is, I have to stretch my arm upward to get a proper grip. If I wasn't so angry, I'd feel rather ridiculous. But instead of staying out of the way, the henchman moves ahead of us and pushes the button that locks the door. What do you think you're doing? Something I tried very hard to avoid. You just couldn't kill him, could you? You had to go and make everything more difficult. Now I'll have to kill you both. I'm sorry, what? Put your hands on your head and stand next to Sergei. What's going on? Is this a mutiny? I stand still for a moment, trying to make sure of the sense of the situation. But before I can say or do anything, I see him put a hand inside his shirt and take out a gun. He's pointing it at us, his finger resting on the trigger. I let Sergei go and take a step back. Suddenly, he breaks his handcuffs and, with his hands now free, rips the cloth covering his mouth. The henchman hesitates, and that second is all Sergei needs to grab him to a chokehold, pulling him away from the door while trying to get him to drop the gun. Quick, open the door! The door! I get to the keypad, but nothing I do unlocks the door. Oh, this is getting good. I can't activate the alarm either, as the only thing I get when I try is an error message. He overrode my codes! Sergei isn't any more successful, and the henchman elbows him hard and he knocks him backwards, and he has to take a moment to catch his breath. Since I can't do anything about the door, I begin going through the drawers, desperately trying to find something useful. All I manage to find is a small handgun, so it will have to do. Unfortunately, I'm not a good shot, and between my nerves and lack of practice, I don't even come close to hitting the henchman when I fire. It's enough to startle him, however, and Sergei used the opportunity to run towards me. He pushes the table on its side and we both duck behind it, using it as cover. Hold on, let me check here. Yeah, it's still recording. He snatches the gun away from my hand. Hey! The one who can actually shoot a target at point-blank range gets the gun, especially because we only have 5 bullets left. Don't move. He leans to the side slightly, just enough to get his hand and part of his head from behind the table. Fuck, I can't see him anymore. You two know each other, don't you? He looks at me for about a second before he turns around and goes back to keeping an eye on the lab. I'm pretty sure that he's not going to answer me, but then he sighs. His name is Yakov. We used to work together before he defected. I had heard the rumors, but I didn't think he'd actually become a mercenary. He's a shame for more than just the KGB. He's a shame for the whole Soviet Union. I didn't recognize him at first, but when he spoke to me, I realized that it was him. Mercenary? That's impossible. He's been here for months. I conducted all the interviews around the time he was hired myself. I'd have noticed if there was anything suspicious. Sergei gives me a skeptic look. Okay, that's not how you stop. Why am I being a bitch about English? Although we could use a bit of editing here. I'll probably volunteer myself. Admittedly, being shot by someone I hired is not the ideal situation to argue about my ability to judge people. He said his original contract was for someone called Sphinx. He hesitates a little before saying the name, as if he was trying to recall exactly where he had heard it before. Uncle! I don't find out whether he remembers because it's me who messes up. I bite my tongue, but it's too late. In the heat of the moment, I let it slip that we're related. He came here for your uncle. Do you really want to talk about that right now? Yes! He's interrupted by the sound of an alarm, as the white light of the lab is replaced by red. Intermittent. Shit. That's why he didn't shoot at us when we ran to hide. It's the evacuation alarm. And it can be activated from any room. Is it just for evacuation? By anyone with a code? Yes. It wouldn't be much of an alarm otherwise, would it? But more importantly, once activated, it purges everything inside the base. It's basically a self-destruct sequence. How long do we have? About 20 minutes, give or take. It depends on how much data the computer has to erase beforehand. Think! He overrode my code, but my uncle's can't be because it's also the master password. There's nothing I can do about the alarm, but I can use another code to open the door, then we can get out. Good, stand up then. What? If he doesn't shoot, he's gone. If he shoots, I can see where he's doing it from and shoot back. Except he has to shoot me for that! Sergei glares at me and I get the impression that if I don't stand up on my own, he's just going to throw me aside anyway, so I do it. Mere seconds later, a bullet grazes my arm from behind one of my uncle's machines. Sergei notices it too and quickly shoots twice in succession. The first one hits the henchman in the arm, making him drop the gun. The second goes straight through his leg, making him fall down. Sergei runs towards him, kicks the gun as far as he can, then uses his free hand to forcibly drag the henchman from behind the machine. I take a second to check my arm. It hurts like hell, but it's not too bad. Nothing that will cause permanent damage, at least. Deciding that it's as safe as it's going to get, I go to the keypad and begin to work on unlocking the door. Just like I thought, the henchman had no way on disabling my uncle's code, so it's a matter of trying them all until I find one that works and the door opens. Done. Let's get out of here. What do you want to do with him? I take a look at the henchman, who's pressing his hand against his wound to slow down the bleeding. If it were for me, I'd just leave him here, but something tells me that my uncle is going to want to have a word with him once he finds out about all of this. Right, I suppose we should take him with us. You're lucky it wasn't Sphinx who got to go through this. Who says he wasn't? You haven't seen him since you arrived, have you? Mantis did. Are you sure? I make a pause while I think. Actually, no, she said that he had gone to take care of some business before I arrived, not that she had seen him. We both know that the hangar is all the way to the other side of the base. You won't make it in time if you decide to take me with you. Since, thanks to Sergei, I can't walk on my own. So you can either go looking for him, or you can make sure that we all get out of here together. But you can't do both. I could leave you with Sergei. He looks just about as upset as I feel. Sure, leave the two Soviets together. What could go wrong? Oh my god. This is serious shit. I don't know if I'm gonna do the right one. Head straight to the hangar. Go check on my uncle. Hangar? Uncle. Damn. Even the possibility of my uncle needing me is more important than this idiot. There's no need to think about it twice. I thought about it twice. Leave him. You can come with me and we'll talk about what'll happen later. Sergei seems to hesitate up for a moment, but in the end he hits the henchman with the butt of the gun, knocking him out before following me outside. Outside the lab, the base is in total chaos. The henchmen are running back and forth, some of them carrying stacks of papers with them while others are trying to move pieces of equipment. They ignore me as I try to get their attention until I physically stop one of the technicians by putting a hand on his chest. When and where was the last time you saw my uncle? At his office, sir, 2 minutes ago. He was with Mantis. When we get to the office, the first thing I see is Mantis leaning over the computer, trying desperately while my uncle goes through the drawers at the same time. I can't help letting out a sigh of relief, just loud enough to get their attention. Mantis looks up for a second before going back to work, but my uncle stops whatever he's doing and runs to meet me. At first I think he's going to hug me, but then he puts his hand on my shoulder and begins to angrily shake me back and forth. Of all the irresponsible things you've done, this is by far the worst. How did you even manage to activate the alarm? I didn't. Then who did? Because as far as I know, nobody else would dare touch it. My uncle stops shaking me, then takes a step back. It looks like he's finally about to lose his patience and hit me. But before he can do it, Mantis claps her hands together to get our attention. When we turn around, I see that she's waving a disket in her hand. It can fit in a disket? Boys, please, you can fight all you want when we aren't about to blow up. It's ready, Sphinx. He nods, picking up a paper from the desk before turning around and leaving. He makes sure to glare at me one last time, though. As we head out, Mantis grabs me by the arm, pulling me closer so that we're walking side to side. It takes a conscious effort. Why are there words missing? To keep up with her since she's taller, but the position at least means that she can lean down and whisper in my ear. Sergei, who had been standing outside by the door, waits a moment before beginning to walk and then remains at a cautious distance of a couple of steps behind us. That's the Russian, isn't it? If you told me he looked like that, I'd have suggested that you keep him. Mantis, it's not like that. Are you sure? Because if you don't want him, I might just keep him for myself. Thirsty! Do you need a glass of water? She laughs like we weren't at all still in mortal danger, changing her hands from my arm to around my shoulder. It takes about a moment to get the lair back in the good enough shape to use, which basically means that the rooms have been repaired and pretty much nothing else. My uncle was furious, but I managed... Did we skip a scene? Managed to get him to calm down quite a bit by taking over the reconstruction project myself. It also helped that Mantis convinced him that the task is not only arduous enough to be a punishment, but that he'd use the free time to take a much-deserved vacation. Probably the biggest winner of all of this is Sergei, whose decision to stay here we've all been too busy to question. I can't really blame him though, since it's not like he has anywhere else to go, and he can't look for his sister without resources or at least a lead. He's actually incredibly competent too, to the point that he's basically become my second in command. What? Are we close to the end? This is too humorous, and there wasn't an explosion or anything. I'm going over the budget for the new laboratory when I hear Sergei come in and lock the door behind him. He waits a moment until I gesture for him to approach. When he's close enough, he puts a paper on top of the desk. It's a letter from Human Resources, probably to remind me that I owe the henchman overtime or something to that effect. But before I can read it, Sergei clears his throat to get my attention. I want to make it official. Make what official? My job. You've been here a month. Trust me, you've got a job. These are just words on a paper. No, they're a promise that goes both ways. Oh! You do know that you're free to leave anytime you want, right? You're not doing this under the assumption that I'll turn up one day on your doorstep demanding that you repay some kind of debt, are you? I know, and I've given it a lot of thought. You were right, just like my sister was right. I served the party for pretty much my entire life. Many times they asked me to die for the sake of my country, and I was always willing. But that time it was different. To die to a man like Yakov is to die a traitor's death, forever a stain in my family's name. Sergei takes a pen out of his pocket and puts it on the desk, next to the letter. Mantis told me about your application to the League, and how you were hoping to use me to get in. I want to help. And what do you get out of it? I help you, and you use the League's resources to help me reunite with my sister. Sergei rests his hands against the desk, practically leaning over it. Even if I'm pretty certain that he wouldn't go as far as physically stopping me from getting up, between the tone of his voice and the look on his face, it sure feels like it. You know, I would have less thinking to do if the last Russian I met hadn't ended up bleeding all over my floor. Because I shot him. I remember. Ah, you got the coy smile. Ah! This will have to wait until we're done rebuilding though, just so I don't give my uncle a heart attack. Call him Sergei. You're fucking adorable. How does number 2 sound to you? Oh! Hello! Your loyalty is mine! When I stand up to give the pen and paper back to him, instead of just grabbing them, Sergei takes my hand into his and kisses my knuckles. I'm left staring at him until he moves away, and our eyes meet when he looks up. What the fuck is this music? Come on, guys! Holy shit! I'm sorry, I have to appreciate this. Holy crap. It briefly occurs to me that he might just be messing with me by acting over the top about this, but his expression remains as serious as when he was talking about his sister. After an awkward moment of silence, I clear my throat. It sounds just about right. Was that all you wanted? Blush, blush? No, I also came to tell you that you have a visitor. She's waiting outside. It must be Mantis. Whatever moment we may have shared is ruined so thoroughly at that instant that it almost feels intentional, and I let out a groan. And the guards didn't inform me before letting her in because they said that they recognized her from previous visits, so they thought it would be unnecessary to interrupt either of us. Well, who is it? They aren't sure what her name is. Seriously? I have already removed them from their posts. They'll be on cleaning duty until I can establish whether it was a genuine oversight or something else. Good. I think all of the women I know, and admittedly the list isn't very long. Even less when I cut it down to the ones who've been here before. Perhaps, but she's not supposed to be back yet. I'm about to tell Sergei to let who I assume is Madame Mantis in when the door opens and she comes walking in. Sergei and I exchange a look of confusion, and Mantis dangles a key between her fingers before putting it away in her handbag. The fact that she has a copy is rather worrying, but not surprising. Most likely recognizing her from last time. Sergei moves out of the way as she approaches the desk. Mantis takes a quick look at him, then turns to face me with a grin on her face. You've been busy! Mantis, no, shut up. Making this place presentable, I mean. She shoos Sergei away with a hand gesture towards the door. Could you leave us alone, handsome? The doctor and I have some things to discuss. Sergei looks at me, waiting for instructions. I trust Mantis' judgment, so if he thinks we should keep whatever she came to talk about private, so be it. I nod and Sergei goes ahead and walks out of the office. I thought you were with my uncle. He didn't decide to come back early, did he? Because we're nowhere near done. No, quite the opposite in fact. Which is why it makes me glad to see this place in one piece. It would have been a shame to have to tell Sphinx otherwise when I just managed to talk some sense into him. I don't think I'm following. He's joining me for a trip I've been dying to make for a while now. A whole 6 months of traveling around the world and meeting old acquaintances. Of course, neither of us could leave business unattended for so long. Then it occurred to me, I already know the perfect person to take care of everything. Why, if everything goes well, he might end up in charge when we retire. How did you even get him to agree to that? I messed up a simple kidnapping and this whole place blew up because of it. My assistant is a former KGB spy. Oh, Keegan, you should see how badly some people do when no one's looking. Being a supervillain is not only about successes. Hold on, am I still recording? Good. Sorry, I keep... Being a supervillain is not only about successes, it's about how we recover from failures. You've got a bright future ahead of you, and what I finally got your uncle to understand is that it's the sort of thing that you can't run from. Not forever anyway. So he can either support you and be part of it, or try to stop you and watch from afar as you do it anyway. I don't know what to say.
Mantis, of course you do. You're going to say...
Oh my god! Never mind that voice, fuck!
Self-voicing disabled.
Shit! I did not know Renpy had that function. I pressed V by accident. Of course you do. You're going to say yes, and you're going to treat me to dinner so you can tell me how amazing I am for making it happen. And you're going to tell me everything about that KGB man of yours. Again? I said so already, it's not like that. Come on dear, I'm neither blind nor dumb. Besides, your face is all red. I immediately raise a hand to touch my face and Mantis gives me a knowing grin. Got you! Hopefully this one won't get eaten by a shark, She gets up and circles the table, hooking her arm under mine so that I can lead. Now be a gentleman and show what you've done with the place so far. Perhaps things didn't turn out exactly like I had planned, but there's still a lot of work ahead. After all, what's the point of being a supervillain if I can't have a little fun? Okay. That turned out better than expected. The end? Well, that's one route. So, this game is interesting. I kinda like the little twist at the end. Makes me wonder what's gonna happen with this James Bond image. I'm not supposed to call him imitation, but the man in the tux. Yeah, I forgot his name actually. But I'm curious what's gonna happen here and what if I did different choices with Sergei. I'll probably explore those. So expect more parts from this. This is an interesting game. It just probably needs it just probably needs an editor to go over the dialogue because there are some times where there were errors and I just ended up reading and getting mumbled. I'm already mumbly as a person, but on the side that's but that aside, this is just a bit different. So yeah, if you like this and you want to see more, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, support the creator, buy his game. It's pretty good. So we finished one route, I'll probably explore that. If I remember right, the email said that I can only do one route. I'll probably explore the different decisions with Sergei. So, but we'll see. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you want to see me do more, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and support me through PayPal, or you can buy me a coffee with coffee.com. I'll leave a link in the description, and I wonder if it'll work at the cards, but yeah, make sure to check those links out, and I really thank you guys for sticking with me. It's an honor. So yeah, here's to more video games like this, and to more gay relationships. I'll probably try doing Jesus X Javi or some shit at Walking Dead if I can actually get it to run here. Anyway, bye for now! Support me!